Good morning, students. We'll start with the book Vistas, chapter 2. Name of the chapter is The Enemy. The Enemy. The main characters of this story are a Japanese surgeon named Dr. Sado Hoki. Dr. S-A-D-A-O Sado H-O-K-I Hoki. His wife Hana H-A-N-A Hana, an American prisoner of war Tom, and the maid servant or Yumi. The background is World War II. In World War II, Japan was at war with America. It is the time of Second World War. Japan is at war with America. During that war, an American prisoner of war gets washed away to the doorstep of a Japanese doctor, Sado Hoki. The choice for Dr. Sado and his wife Hana is very clear. Is not very clear. On the other hand, the choice is very hard. Got it? The choice is difficult for Dr. Sado and his wife. What kind of choice? Should they hand him over to the police, Japanese police, or save him from dying? These are the two choices. They have to make any one choice out of it. Being a doctor, Dr. Sado gives top priority to save the life of a dying American soldier. Not only does he save him, but he also helps him in escaping to freedom. So between two duties, he finds it difficult to choose which of the two, whether he should save him or whether he should hand over him to the police, hand the prisoner of war to the police. These two choices made him confused. So finally, what he does is, being a doctor, he gives top priority to his profession to save the life of the dying American soldier. Not only does he save him, but also he helps the soldier, the injured soldier, wounded soldier, in escaping to freedom. The story goes like this. Dr. Sado Hoki's house was built on the Japanese coast near sea. His father never joked or played with him. We are talking about his childhood. His father was a very serious man. Sado knew that his education was the topmost priority for his father. For this reason, he had sent Dr. Sado to America when he was young, at 22 years of age, to become a doctor, to learn medicine and surgery. He had come back at the age of 30. Dr. Sado became doctor and he had come back to Japan at the age of 30. Before his father died, he had seen Sado become a famous surgeon and scientist. Sado had met Hana in America. We are talking about his wife. He did not fall in love with her until he was sure she was Japanese. His father would never have accepted her unless she had been pure in her race. Sado met her at an American professor's house. They came home to Japan. Their marriage had been arranged in the old Japanese way. They were perfectly happy and had 2 children. Sado and Hana found something coming out of the mist. Now we are talking about the present situation. They had noticed something coming out of the mist in the ocean. A man seemed to be on his hands and knees crawling. He was trying to come to the shore. Then they saw him fall on his face and lie there. He was wounded and lay motionless on the sand. He was a white man. On the right side of his lower back, Sado saw that a gun wound had reopened. He was bleeding. He pegged the wound with the sea moss. The man cried but did not awaken. That American soldier was washed away in the ocean and lying down at the coast. When Hannah and Dr. Sado noticed, they had taken him home. The doctor pegged the wound with the sea moss. The man cried but did not awaken. The man is the American prisoner of war. They read the faint letters on his cap, U.S. Navy. The American was a prisoner of war. They were sure that he was the prisoner of war. If they sheltered the white man in their house, they would be arrested. But if they turned him over a prisoner, he would certainly die. The couple, doctor and his wife Hannah, was indecisive, unable to decide what to do. All Americans were their enemies. If he were healthy, he could turn him over to the police. But the soldier was wounded. He would die unless he was operated. Operated means got operation. Okay? At any rate, something was to be done with him. The two servants were frightened at what their master had just told them. They thought that their master should not heal the wound of that white man since he was an enemy soldier. Even Yumi, the maid servant, refused to wash the white man and returned to her work. Hannah herself had to wash the soldier Tom's breast and face with streaming hot water carefully. Sado asked Hannah to help him to turn the man. She complied. She did exactly what her husband commanded. She was asked to give the anesthetic if needed. The bullet was still there in his body. He had lost much blood. Hannah could not bear the sight and ran out of the room. She had never seen an operation. Sado went on with his work, but she came with a bottle and some cotton in her hand. Then, with a heavy, clean and precise incision, the bullet was taken out. The man quivered, he shook, but he was still unconscious. He only muttered, spoke a few words, which could not be understood, a few words in English. Dr. Sado declared that the man would live in spite of all the injuries and wounds. The young man woke up. The American soldier, the American prisoner, whose name was Tom, woke up. He was very weak. His blue eyes were terrified when he saw where he was. Hannah consoled him not to be afraid. She comforted him that he would soon be strong. On the third day, Sado examined the wound. Tom, the American prisoner soldier, asked what they were going to do with him. He looked barely 17 or 18, a very young man. For a moment, Sado did not answer. Tom was a prisoner of war. He should have been handed over to the Japanese police, since he was an American prisoner of war and enemy soldier to the Japanese. The servants grew daily more watchful. Sado wanted the prisoner to get up on his feet. He should practice it every day till he gained strength. The soldier thanked the doctor for having saved his life. The doctor cautioned him not to thank him so early. Sado examined the wound carefully every day. The last stitches had been pulled out. The young man would be all right within 2 weeks. On the 7th day, the servants left Dr. Sado together, thinking him that considering him to be not worthy of respect, or he thinking him to be a traitor. He was not, giving importance to his country and saving, on the contrary, saving an enemy. The old general was then now. Dr. Sado thought the other way. He thought of meeting the general, an Japanese general, army chief. General is a post, high-ranked officer in Japanese army. So he decided to meet him and tell him about the American prisoner that he was there in his house. But the general whom Dr. Sado went to meet was sick. He knew that Sado was indispensable to him. He did not want Sado to be arrested. What would happen if he were condemned to death and the next day he would have to have his operation? He did not trust other surgeons. The general hit upon a plan. It would be best if the American could be quietly killed. He had his own private assassins, murderers. He could send 2 of them to his house at night. Sado agreed that it would be very natural. Now Sado went to the general, confessed everything, that an American prisoner of war was taking shelter in his house. So he informed the general to get him arrested, to send his forces, men, and get him arrested. But since the general was sick, lying sick, he did not give much attention and he was forgetful, to what the Sado had suggested him, and he promised to send 2 generals to arrest him that night. Sado thought over the general's plan. The whole thing would go out of his hands. He did not tell anything to Hana about his visit to the general, who promised him to send 2 of his army men and put him to death. Put whom to death? Who to death? Put the American prisoner to death. The next morning he went to the guest room. He thought of putting his boat on the shore that night and food and extra clothing in it. Now, since after waiting, the general could have forgotten and did not send the 2 army, and it was risky for Dr. Sado to keep the prisoner for long. He thought that his servants also can spread the news. His servants who left his house for nursing American enemy soldier who was wounded could spread the news, and the doctor could be arrested at any time. Thinking so, he was waiting for the general to send. Since the general did not send any of the soldiers, he decided to let the American prisoner flee safely. The next morning he went to the guest room. He thought of putting his boat on the shore that night with food and extra clothing in it. The American might be able to row to that little island not far from the coast. This is the first part of the story. American soldier was finally to be escaped. He got help from the doctor to escape from doctor's house. This is the first part. I will explain to you in the second part.